Hey there, it's Anneliese. Now today I'm going to be using the gel plate and we're going to be doing some image transfers. Quite a tough thing to do. It's quite challenging as there are so many variables and you can have a brilliant image one moment and a fail the next thinking you've done exactly the same thing. And it's quite disheartening sometimes. So I spent a week toiling over the gel plate to try and discover some key things that help you get a good result pretty much every time. So just let's get started. So what I found is obviously a lot easier to put less paint on than more until you get the grip of how much paint you want. But the key I found is having enough paint on here, but you want to make it really smooth. It's almost translucent. Just take that excess off. I want it to be, it almost looks like really fine brush suede. So you've got a really nice texture on it. It's really, really smooth. That helps a lot. So we're going to try an image that I don't know if it's going to work or not, but we're just going to do it. Stick it on there. I've just got that image. So we'll see if the contrast is enough. So straight away, that's got to go on it while it's wet. And once you're convinced that is well stuck down, we peel it up. Now, you never worry about the writing because it's back to front now, but when you turn it over, it will be the right way again. So the important bit now is this has to dry. So I'm just going to use the heat gun. But it's speedy. If you're in a nice warm room, it takes a minute or two, but it's quite cool in here today. So if we don't speed it up, you'll be here all day watching paint dry, which is boring. And it needs to be touch dry, so when you touch it, there's no fingerprints. Don't worry about fingerprints because there is one. You're not going to see it when the paint's on there. So just a little tiny bit more. That's it. So it's got to be so there's no paint coming up on your fingers. That's key. It's really, really important. Next thing, we're going to grab a few little bits of paint. Let's just grab a couple of colours out. The metallics work really nice with this. They just look really pretty. So I'm just going to grab some. So again, this is going to be a really thin coat of paint. It's key. All this thin coat of paint is really key to it working, I've found. Now you can do 2 or 3 layers. It's entirely up to you. I'm just going to go over this one. I keep losing my pins. My pins keep coming out. It's okay. It's a bit of having the screw loose, I think. Like that. Then once the whole plate is covered, I go over it and make sure that it's an even coat of paint. So that's, if I use different types of paint like fluid or heavy bodied, it makes them all the same depth, if that makes sense. Does that make sense? Yeah, it makes sense. So if I just roll this out a little bit. And then another thing you can do, like get the rubber stamps and you can go in and you can actually just do a bit of a resist on there while you're at it. Just take some shapes like these, just add a bit extra in, because that way you don't need so many layers like you sometimes do with the plates. Basically, whenever you're going to pull the image off, it needs to be wet. So if I was going to do another layer now, I would dry that and then put the last layer on. But because I'm going to pull it, we're going to put that on, and you've got to make sure this is really well stuck down and just give it a moment or two. And I watched an awful lot of people doing videos. I kind of had the impression that you've really got to let it dry before you pulled it off, and you don't. But you have got to make sure the paint's really stuck to this. And the way to check is as you start to peel here, there's still a little bit of paint on there, so I'm just going to press that down a bit more. It should almost start to be warm to touch. When you start doing this, it feels really cold to your hand and damp, but actually once you start to rub it on, it actually gets warmer. So you peel it back and you get your image. Like I said, not the best image because it's quite a busy image, but there it is. It's all there, it's all done. Happy days. Now, just briefly, at the end of all that, one of the things I didn't talk about was if you print an image. And what you must do, inkjet will not work. They'll work on a normal image transfer when you're using glues and paints on paper, but they won't work on a gel plate. You have to use laser print. So there is a big difference in the type of print that it is. It's the black ink of the laser print that will actually resist with the black paint, and that's how the image happens. I did try some laser print images. I did some vintage ladies, but I have to be honest, I wasn't pleased with the results I got. I think they weren't high contrast enough, maybe, and I think they weren't sepia, but they were quite soft. They're not harsh images. I think if you're going to do, for me personally, I think if I was going to use laser print images again, I would use a more modern image so that it's a sharper, clearer image. And then I think you get some very, very good. I've certainly seen some other people do them that are very clear and very sharp. But I don't have a laser printer at my disposal just to keep printing out and to try all these things out. So my only recommendation to you is make sure it's a laser printer and not an inkjet printer that most of us have at home. You can get them at some of the office supply shops and places that have them that you can use to create copies. Also, just again, it's that same thing. It's that high contrast image that you've got to try and create. So that's my recommendation on the printing. Otherwise, everything we've done today has been with magazines. So, hope it all makes sense. Hope you have some fun with it. Love to see the results. Take care. See you soon.